You know, I always pictured the truth as this dramatic, clarifying moment like a lightning bolt or a big revelation in a movie.
It's funny, but for me, most truths have shown up quietly, almost when I was least prepared. I'll be half asleep or just a little lost, and suddenly, bam, there's this realization waiting for me.
Exactly. It's almost sneaky. I used to think that if I just tried harder or got better, life would finally make sense. But honestly, that idea never came with fanfare. It just faded away when things didn't work out.
That's so relatable. The first real heartbreak came not from a dramatic event, but from realizing all the effort in the world sometimes still isn't enough, which actually fits perfectly with our first big truth for today.
So true. There's this belief that if you put in the work, you'll always get the reward. But sometimes you do everything right and still end up disappointed. That's a tough pill to swallow.
What stings most is realizing you can pour your heart into something, show up loyally, be kind, and still be misunderstood, or worse, overlooked. It almost makes you question the point of trying at all.
It can be tempting to blame yourself, like, maybe I just needed to be even better. But the truth is, life isn't always fair, and pretending it is only drags out the pain.
It might sound bleak, but I actually find it freeing. Once you accept that effort doesn't guarantee results, you can stop measuring your worth by outcomes. Speaking of worth, that actually ties into how we often judge our relationships, too.
You ever notice how some people are only around when you're struggling, but vanish when you start to grow? I used to think everyone who smiled with me was rooting for me.
I've definitely been burned that way. Some folks just can't handle your confidence. They'll clap quietly or give support from a safe distance. But when you finally find your footing, suddenly, they're nowhere to be found.
Exactly. And I'd go out of my way to make excuses for them, like, oh, they're probably just busy. But real support doesn't disappear when you need it most.
And it's wild how we trick ourselves into thinking love means always holding on, even when it's just making us anxious. But sometimes, outgrowing that dynamic is necessary even if it hurts.
It's one of the most bittersweet parts of growing, isn't it? No one really tells you that you'll grieve the loss of friendships or even old versions of yourself.
Absolutely. Letting go can feel like breaking up with a part of your own history. Sometimes there's no big fight, just a slow fading out, no explanation, just silence.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you're cold or heartless. Sometimes it's just being honest about where you're heading.
It's messy, for sure, and not at all tidy like the movies. But as hard as it is, that honesty is what makes space for real growth. And on the subject of tough but necessary truth, I keep thinking about motivation versus discipline.
I used to wait for motivation to strike like, any day now, I'll feel ready to tackle my goals. Spoiler, it never really happened the way I hoped.
I hear you. Most days, motivation's nowhere to be found. What actually changed things for me was showing up on the days I felt tired, bored, even scared. The boring, invisible moments add up.
Totally. No one's cheering you on when you're just quietly being consistent, but that's where the real change happens.
And you know what's wild? Discipline becomes almost like a safety net. Even when motivation flakes, you have something to fall back on. Which brings me to something I never expected: learning to appreciate being alone instead of drained.
It took me a long time to realize that being alone isn't the enemy. For years, I was terrified of loneliness, so I'd bend over backwards just to keep people happy.
I've been there. But after enough times losing myself in the noise, I started to see solitude differently. It's not about isolation, it's about getting clear on who you are without all the outside voices.
There's something almost sacred about that kind of peace. The loneliness passes, but the regret from betraying yourself, that sticks around.
And it's wild how, once you get comfortable with your own company, you stop settling for relationships or situations that just drain you. Speaking of which, healing from those situations isn't exactly straightforward, is it?
Healing gets sold like it's this smooth, upward journey, but the reality is all over the place. Some days you make progress. Other days, one memory can totally derail you.
Exactly. I've had days where I wake up feeling strong, only to find myself back at square one before lunch. And that's not a failure, that's just what being human looks like.
Sometimes the best you can do is rest, or cry, or just get through the day. And sometimes you have to start over again.
It's such a relief to admit that, isn't it? Healing doesn't always look pretty, but it's real. And it reminds me waiting around for someone else to fix things just doesn't work.
People love to offer encouragement like, stay strong, but at the end of the day, you're the one who has to pick yourself up. No one else can do the heavy lifting for you.
So true. I've spent too much time hoping advice or support would magically change things. But owning your choices, leaving what hurts, protecting your energy, that's what actually changes your life.
It's a little scary, that realization. But it's also empowering. You stop waiting for rescue and start building what you truly want.
And the crazy thing is, the more you practice self-respect, the easier it gets to believe you're worthy without having to be perfect.
I used to think I had to fix every flaw before I could be loved or successful. Like, if I was perfect, then I'd finally be enough.
It's such a trap, isn't it? Even if you got everything right, it would probably still feel empty. You're allowed to be a work in progress. You're allowed to be unsure.
That's been eye-opening for me. Worth isn't something you earn after a checklist. It's something you start with messy, imperfect, and all.
And honestly, that's where real change begins. Speaking of change, I've noticed it's not always the most talented people who succeed. It's the ones who just keep showing up.
I've seen so many bright, talented folks give up when things got tough. Meanwhile, the ones who just kept at it, even if nobody noticed, are the ones who stuck around.
That's the real magic, isn't it? Talent opens doors, but consistency keeps them open. It's all those small, boring efforts that build something lasting.
And it's comforting, honestly. You don't have to be the most gifted, just the most persistent. Consistency is almost a superpower.
Which leads straight to the biggest truth of all. Your life really changes the moment you start telling yourself the truth, even when it's uncomfortable.
Everything shifted for me once I stopped pretending, stopped lying to myself about what was hurting, what wasn't working, what I actually wanted.
It's honestly terrifying at first, facing those truths. But the freedom on the other side? It's like finally exhaling after holding your breath for years.
You move from just surviving to actually living. It's not easier, but it's real, and real is so much better.
And if you need a reminder, here it is. You're allowed to choose yourself, to grow slowly, to start again. That's the truth that matters most.
Thank you for listening. Subscribe our channel to learn more. See you again.